Hey everyone, this is Scorp, and today I want to talk about why I love Final Fantasy XIV. I've been playing this game for about 4.5 years now, since winter of 2016, and it's been one of the games I find it hard not to come back to. It's just something I really enjoy. There's so much to do with it, and I find it more enjoyable day after day. So why do I play it so much? Why do I always see myself coming back to it? Well, I feel like there's 4 main things that keep me playing. Let's start with the story. So the story always follows this is a single player experience going through where you are the main character and you have to deal with the woes of wherever you're supposed to go for that expansion or the vanilla story. And it plays through like one giant game. I would say a typical Final Fantasy game at that. After you beat the main scenario quest, for the next 2 or so years, Square Enix will release patches which release sort of mini episodic storylines that are normally wrapped up within that patch. So it's to keep us, coming back for the little story. Granted, it's sort of post what the main expansion story gives us. It's more like, here's a little bit of extra. So all the characters that you meet in the main game, they might have something to do after that they want to discuss. They do continue on with each other, being like they do bring up in future content of, it's like when this thing happened, or we have to talk with them because they were heavily involved with this. So it's pretty cool. They're short. I would say while the expansion story is something about 20 to 30 hours long, depending on if you watch the actual cutscenes. It's about that long, and then each patch is about 3 hours of content, so it equals out. Then there's more than just the main scenario stories. There's the side stories. There's some side quests that you can do that give its own unique story, like the relic weapon quests that all for Shadowbringers was Baja, Zadnor, and the whole Save the Queen quest line. So that was an interesting story as well. There's also the raids. Those give their own side story. The expansion trials also follow a similar story where you have to fight specific enemies that all coincide with each other at the end, this patch being the weapons. The weapons being a Final Fantasy VII reference with Ruby, Emerald, and Platinum. So, there's always a lot of story to tell in this game with each patch, and I would say they do a great job with it. The big one with the expansion, or the little side stories, or just the patch add-ons are really nice to play through. But story is not the only thing that keeps me playing. The big thing I would say is definitely the game itself, the gameplay. There is a lot to do. There are a lot of classes, each play differently from each other. Some have a little bit of similarities, that being all the tanks have certain abilities that work like each other, all the healers. Then you got the damage dealers. The damage dealers are split into 3 categories. There's physical melee, there's physical ranged, you got your bows, your guns, I don't know what they're called, like chakra thingies, they're the dancer weapons. And then you got your magical range, just your typical caster class. They're broken up into different types of what they're considered to be, but they don't really go too heavily into that other than gear. So it's not really that important. But there are 5 different types of class jobs to play, which is really nice. It just adds a lot of variety to the game that already has so much to do. Personally for me, I've always been a fan of the melee jobs. That's why I raid as a samurai, and I play tank as well from time to time. But the other classes are just so much fun to play. And they all have their own unique rotations that you want to master in order to deal out the most damage. And then there's a lot of movement abilities as well. Some, like the samurai has the jump back and the gap closer, which is really fun when you can pull it off at the right time to keep up time to the last moment where you jump back and then the attack goes off, and then you gap close to continue your rotation as if you were always there. It's just such a fun experience with that. Your healers are broken up into two different types. There's the pure healers, and then there's the shielding healers. The shielding healers being right now the Scholar, and if you're using the Nocturnal Sect on the Astro, I'm not going to pronounce the full name. It's mostly to help mitigate damage prior to the damage going off. And then the pure healer is the White Mage, and if you're using Astro, using the Diurnal Sect, it is meant to heal the party as well as give a regeneration healing to the party, and that's meant for after the damage has already been done. Let's heal them up. So it goes hand in hand with the shielder, and it's going to be exposed. I guess that's the word I want to use. It's going to be more brought out with Endwalker when the Sage class comes out, and since with the Sage being another shielder, they've already announced that they're going to make Astro a pure healer, so it's going to lose its Nocturnal Sect, but it's going to get a lot more healing to it. So along with the differences of what each class brings to the table as far as its originality, Astro has the cards which buff damage. Scholar brings its fairy to the table and a lot of shielding abilities. Still don't know what Sage has. And White Mage is just the purest of healers. It's raw healing. Like, it's the rawest of healing. So it's got a lot there. Tanks, they all kind of do the same. The only big things that they really do is what some of their abilities do. Specifically their immunity. Their invulnerable abilities. There it is. The Paladin has Hollow Ground, which mitigates damage for 6 seconds. Dark Knight has Living Dead, which puts your health at 0, and you have to be healed 100% before the Living Dead debuff wears out, otherwise you die. The Warrior has Home Gang, which chains the enemy to a specific position and makes so you're immune to most damage for X amount of time. I haven't used it, and I can't remember if it brings your health down to 1, but it's a short one, and it's got one of the shortest cooldowns out of the 4 tanks. And then you have the Gunbreaker, which was released with Shadowbringers, who has Super Bolide, how you want to say it. And that brings your health down to 1 HP, but you're also immune to attacks for X amount of time, most attacks, that is. They don't want you to just use it willy-nilly, so for all of them, they don't want you to use it willy-nilly, so it says most attacks. So yeah. Those all bring some nice variety to the table as well. All the DPS, I kind of went over them already, but there's melee, which is up close and personal, and then there's physical range, which deals range damage, and there's no cast to it. But what they mostly bring to the table, I would say, is buffs and help with stunning targets. So that's like their main thing is they're ranged, but they're also like support. And then you got the casters, the magical range, who are just raw casters. Red Mage brings a huge, why they call it the Res Mage, with being able to res people pretty quickly. Then you got Summoner, who actually shares the same job as the healer, or same class as the healer Scholar, so you can level both of those together, and it's just, it's a fun thing. And then you got the last one, Black Mage. Black Mage being pretty much your heaviest hitting job in the game, I believe. So it's just a lot there's a lot to do in this game with the different jobs. Now, what goes to learning a job if you're not doing anything after you beat the story and beat the small little things? Then the endgame. The endgame has quite a lot to do. I think this is what keeps me playing, is the endgame itself is doing raids, Alliance 24-man raids, and all the extreme trials. It's to challenge you to do more hard content. The trials, it's kind of split of like an order of difficulty. And there was a streamer I remember watching saying at the time how the trials are broken up into difficulty. You got the beginner trial, extreme trials are the ones from the story. Those ones are meant to be the easiest, like the introduction to if you just started playing the game up into the expansion, but you haven't done anything. Here are these raids. Or, extreme trials. And then you have the final, the next step up would be the post-game trials. Some of them, at least. There's the, I guess I should use examples for Shadowbringers. I would say, let's go back to the beginning ones. I think the beginning ones would be classified as Titania and Vothri. Those were the easiest ones, I believe. And then the next step up would be Emerald and Ruby weapon. I never did that other trial that came with the relic. Those would be like the next step up. And then I guess I would throw Platinum weapon into that as well. Diamond weapon. That's not Platinum weapon, it's Diamond weapon. Stupid. And then after that would be the hardest trials, which for this game, for Shadowbringers, is Hades Extreme and See the Sacrifice Extreme. Those are like, these are meant to be done like, you know, they're not as hard as raids, but they're up there. But it's meant to challenge you, not so much as a raid difficulty, but for your own personal, can you identify where to go at the precise moment? That's a fairly good way of explaining that. Then you got the raids. Now there's two different types of raids. The easier ones I would say are the 24-man raids, as those don't offer a savage difficulty. They're meant as this is your next step if you want a little bit more challenge, but we're going to throw 3 parties in the mix instead of just the singular one. And those have their own little story as well within the expansion. Shadowbringers being the Nier Automata series. Then the next step up would be for Shadowbringers, it was the Eden raids. The whole purpose of this was Eden. That would be the next step up. And then finally not even finally, because it's not the hardest part of it, but the second to last step is the Savage raids. This is what everyone who does raiding looks forward to each major patch that releases them. These offer some of the hardest content in the game. This requires a team who all know their kit, their classes and jobs kits 100%. You go in, you have to do a lot of mechanics. There's a lot of mechanics to do. There's a lot of figuring out where the safe spots are, who has to do what when they have what debuff, And it's just that this is the main part of the game for me that I've enjoyed the most, is the savage raiding. It's so fun. And when you see the screen turn black and you see the boss just disintegrate in front of you, it's the greatest feeling of all time. And you get to do that 4 or 5 times depending on if there's a door boss. That's the biggest part you'll see people looking forward to doing in Final Fantasy XIV. Finally, there's the ultimate duties. There's only 3 as of the time of this video. There's ultimate weapon, called Uwu. There's the unending coil of Bahamut, ultimate. And then there's the Epic of Alexander, ultimate. These are meant to be I guess a love letter to the time where these are based off of. Ultimate Weapon is based off of the Ultimate Weapon, the Unending Coil Bahamut raid series. The Ultimate Weapon's refrain is based on the trials of Realm Reborn, being Garuda, Ifrit, and Titan, along with the Ultimate Weapon, the ending boss fight of A Realm Reborn's main scenario, pre-post patch. And then the Epic of Alexander is the culmination of the entire, I guess not the entire, but just the best parts of the Alexander raid series from Heavensward. And that was at this current time is considered the hardest one, I believe. And it's not meant for those who are casual. It's not meant for those who are struggling to understand their kit. You need to know everything about your kit. You need to be able to identify mechanics as fast as humanly possible. You need to be able to get to from position A to position B without hesitating. All 8 members of that duty need to be in sync with each other. Otherwise, one screw up, you wipe. And they're the longest parts of the game. Some branch going to 17 minutes for the entire encounter. As long as this video's been going on for now. But that is the ultimate, as the name says. That is the ultimate content to do. And a lot of people are still trying to go for it. My group itself is looking to do some of the ultimate fights once we once we have time. But what if you do all that? What if you've done all that, you've completed the ultimates, you've completed the raid tier, and there's nothing else to do for hard content? Well, gearing. The purpose of the game is to gear, after all. So, one of the best weapons in the game for each expansion is always going to be the relic weapon. I personally just finished the relic weapon on July 4th. So, that was fun. Each major patch that introduces a new step to the relic weapon can sometimes be the grindy bits. This is where the MMO the MMO feel to Final Fantasy XIV comes into play. A lot of time doing grinding just for one piece of gear, and honestly, it's a good one too. Some of the steps were one time for this expansion. So there was one where you had to collect 30 pieces of there was three parts. It was tell me a story, a fond memory, and spare parts, and I did those out of order. And they were split into different ways of doing it. I went the raid route, which is to do the first 2 raids of a tier for 30 items, and you have to clear it. One clear equals 1 item. And then the second raids of the tiers give the other item. Again, 1 clear per item, you need 30. And you needed to do that for each individual step. I estimate it probably took me about 30 hours to do all 3 of those steps. Thankfully, it was a one-time step, but it was a long, grindy bit, which I think adds to the experience of this is an MMO, this is what you play for. That is one of the biggest things you can do for your character when it comes out, is to get the relic weapon. And it's great. But you get the relic weapon. What else do you do? You cleared the tier. You have your best in slot gear. What else is there to do in the time until the next patch? Or at this point, the next expansion? There's 4 big things you can do. The first one is the most, I would say, rewarding, which is to level your crafters and gatherers. Crafting and gathering is a typical MMO thing, where you do your gathering, you fish, you cut trees, you mine, you get all that all those materials. Then you use those materials to work on your crafters. The crafters are separated into, I think it's 7. It's leatherwork, armorer, blacksmith, goldsmith, alchemists, I think I'm missing one, and culinary. Each of these actually give some fairly good reasons to level these. So let's put myself in my perspective. I don't have specific crafters and gatherers who are doing work for me outside of the raids. So I have to do it all myself. I'm Thanos. Fine, I'll do it myself. So I level all the crafters and gatherers to the max level. Then I have to find the gear, the crafted gear, for the raids. Granted, I'm not a day 1 raider, so I have time to do this. I go out, I gather all the materials I need to craft the best gear, best crafted gear to enter the raids prior to doing the tombstone gear or getting the raid gear. This prepares me to enter the new raid tier at as high level as possible, item level as possible, without having done any prep work, being again, tombstone gear or raid gear. This would be the reason to level crafters gatherers, is create your own gear. Or, if you want to make a lot of gil, craft the gear, put it on the auction house. At the start of a new tier, those items sell for upwards to 1 million and 1.5 million gil per piece. I know, I've seen them. You can do a lot with crafting and gathering, and it's one of the things I recommend everyone do in their spare time, because there's just so much to do with that. I haven't even finished. I've gotten all my crafters up to 80. I have everything but fishing up to 80, and I just need to, I still haven't finished getting all my sky tool stuff yet. I'm still working on that. So that's one big thing I can recommend if you're looking for something to do. That's actually worth a lot of time. Okay, so you've gotten all your crafted gatherers up to 80, so what now? What do I do now? Any fans of Final Fantasy VIII will know of a little game called Triad. Triad is a basic card game. You got a game board with 9 slots. You flip a coin. Whoever goes first gets to place the first of their 5 cards, and the person who goes second gets to only place 4 cards. It is what it is. You can collect Triad cards by doing multiple things. You can get them by doing raids, the Alliance raids. You can get them by doing dungeons, trials. You can buy them from different locations for getting currency by doing specific things. There's a lot of ways to collect these Triad cards, and there's so many of them. Recently, they did release a mount, which is just a Triad card you can ride on if you collect all the Triad cards. So that's something to work for. look forward to doing if you collect the Triple Triad cards. But Triple Triad itself is really fun. You can compete against other people in tournaments. You can play against computers. Sometimes you actually have to beat a computer to get their Triple Triad card too. It's really cool. So there's that if you're looking to do something less combat-y and more let's play Yu-Gi-Oh, but Triple Triad. There's another place you can do all this, which is the Gold Saucer. Any fans of Final Fantasy VII? The Gold Saucer makes a return to this game, and it's literally just a casino where you get Gold Saucer points, GP. It's meant to collect some more cosmetic stuff, I would say, from the main hub of the Gold Saucer. There's a lot of games to play. There's some events that you can play as well. There's an obstacle course, these being on a time-based thing. But there's a lot to do in the Gold Saucer, and there's a lot of achievements as well. Okay, so you've visited the Gold Saucer, you've done all you can do. How about some mounts? How about some minions? You can go farm all the trials, the raids, the dungeons, and a bunch of other things to get the mounts. These are the things you ride on. They're like chocobos, there's dragons, there's bears, there's ligers. What is this, Napoleon Dynamite? But there's a lot of ways to get the mounts, and the mounts are really cool. A lot of them come from the Savage raids as well. I have a few myself that I'm proud of having. And they're really cool. They're a good way to express, like, I've done this in the game, and I'm gonna show it. There's a really cool mount right now that's only available for beating E12S, Eden's Promise 12. And it's, Eden's Promise Eternity Savage. And it's riding Eden herself, from the first encounter of the Eden series, Eden Prime. And it's a really cool mount. And it shows that, hey, this person has gone through and beaten Eden's Promise 12, or Eden's Promise Eternity Savage. That's what I would like to say, but yeah, look up stuff. There's a lot to farm with this, and it's just a cool way of getting around Eorzea / Norvryn. Yeah. Finally, and I forgot to write this down, and I mentioned it earlier, but there's one last thing you can do in this game, which is achievement hunt. There's a lot of different achievements for doing different things, and everything I just mentioned in this whole video is how you can get achievements. Either you complete the story, you do the raids, you do the Savage raids, you complete the Savage raids a certain amount of times, you complete the raids a certain amount of times, you complete the Alliance raids a certain amount of times, you collect all the cards, you level jobs, you level everything, you do everything in this game. Anything in this game you can get an achievement for, and it's really cool. Side note, there's one last thing I forgot to mention. There is PvP in this game. I have personally not played it, but there is PvP. Final Fantasy XIV has been a game that I played casually, and I mean super casually, for the first 3.5 years that I started. I started back in winter of 2016. I started playing because at the time the other game I was playing, Destiny, was in a very lull time with its Rise of Iron expansion, and I wanted something new to play. I didn't know that playing this game was going to keep me playing it for almost 5 years. And I'm really happy that I stuck to this game. It's been fun. The story is great, the gameplay is great, the community is even better, I would say. I feel like out of every dick that I've met in this game who's just headstrong about them being the best, blah blah blah, there's equally about 20 people. The ratio is like 20-1 nice people to dickheads in this game. And the dickheads get chewed out for being dickheads. Honestly. This is a great game, and if you haven't started playing it but have wanted to, I do recommend giving it a try. There's the whole meme of, have you tried Final Fantasy XIV online? You get up to level 60 and go through the Heavensward expansion, which is considered to be one of the greatest expansion stories of all time. And I agree. It's a great story. It's a good game. You could try it for free. Play up through Heavensward, which I think is more than a decent amount of the game to play through before you can decide whether or not you want to continue playing. And more often than not, you're going to continue playing. This is why I love this game. This is why I'm going to continue to play it. I do stream this game over at my Twitch, link in the description. The last thing I'm going to mention before this video ends is a question to you all, anyone that watches this. Why do you play Final Fantasy XIV? What keeps you coming back? What would you recommend to a friend for this game to get them to play it? What would you tell them about it? If you made it to the end of the video, thank you guys so much for watching. Come check me out on Twitch. And I'll see you next time, guys. Later.